Do you date based off of education? Plain and simple. Does education matter when you're finding a mate?
I was going to say it all depends on, well, each individual person. I think you can, it depends on what you consider education. I think a lot of times we're talking about
Formal education.
formal education, right? And so we'll look at the resume of a potential mate and then automatically say, oh, he ain't even go to college. So with the assumption that he's not educated, right? Because in well, even though my husband went to college, I can imagine meeting him prior to that. It would have still been something about him that intrigued me because he was educating himself outside of just the, standard formalized education. He loves to read, and he reads a variety of texts. One of them like religious texts, but like various religions. Just self develop, like bringing it back to the motherland, certain customs and all of those kind of things that happened prior to slavery. Just a variety of things that he just enjoys reading. A lot of people look at him like, oh, I know you used to play football back in the day, and because he looks like that physically, but nah. What did you do? What kind of sports you play? I didn't play sports. Well, what did you do? I read. Like that's him. He loves to be involved in things that is not mainstream. So if everybody's going left, his personality will automatically take him right. And because of that, that intrigues me. So even though he would not have had formal education, I know he would be educated, and I would feel comfortable bringing him into the boardroom with me because he would be able to have those conversations, be well informed of what was going on in the world. So for me personally, I don't think that would matter. But I think for majority of people, I think education, formalized education does matter, especially depending on what kind of job you're in.
For me, somebody that has like a formal education, I'm kind of annoyed at the fact that I have like $45,000 worth of student loans. I think there has definitely been a shift in the collective in terms of what we value. And historically, there's been a lot of value in external validation, whether that comes from education, whether that comes from how much money you make, how you define, like if you ask historically asking people like, oh, what are you? What do you do? That's like the first thing that people like want to ask you. Like, what are you doing with yourself? Like, I'm loving myself. I'm, you know what I mean? Where it's like, there's just been this collective shift of what is important to the masses. And so when we talk about, does a man make more money than a woman, or, what skills as a provider, where it's just like, what is really important to you as the definition of yourself and for the person that's standing across from you, and what is the value of those skills? And so it's like, well, are you putting the value in someone's bank account but not in how they communicate? Are you putting the value in these external sources where internally you're left with this void, not only from yourself but from the person that you have across from you? And so, with this whole shift that's like kind of happening energetically, which I feel like a lot of people are feeling, and we're all kind of like witnessing it, we're reclaiming ourselves as the validation, and we're not putting those, that energy into external places where, the nice shoes, the nice cars, the nice house, that's what validates me. That's what makes me valuable. And so, I'm happy kind of like where we're shifting to. Miss Taken, you made a good point to where it's like, maybe not I guess it's what you define as education. Like when you step into a room, are you able to, speak your truth? Are you able to have some kind of, grounding in the knowledge that you have without necessarily having to go $45,000 in debt to have it? So, I would say, yes, education is important, but the definition of that is also really important.
I have a question. So I have this guy friend, very successful, makes a lot of money, great job. He told me that he doesn't want a woman with a career. He doesn't want a woman that's, in school, whatever. He doesn't want a woman with a career. And I'm like, why is that? I'm sitting here thinking like, what do you guys think about that? Because I think it's like more of a control thing, like men who want women that doesn't have nothing going for themselves, but they're still together. But he's complaining that, man, all she do is sit around the house, blah, 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 blah. But this is what you wanted. So
let me just say this. It could be that he doesn't want her to have a career because then she's available to him whenever he needs, he may needs her to do something like his own personal secretary. But at the same time, there are so many other things that you can do. As a person in the educational system, there are PTA moms, there are volunteers. You can go do something else with your time that doesn't necessarily have to be a career, but, volunteer at a nonprofit. I don't know. Maybe that's what he's looking for.
I would say, I say this, unless there's like a man who's just like highly traumatized, I don't think men as a majority are trying to control women. And I say that because I think when we peel away all of the BS, all of the issues that we are fighting against each other, I think what a man would say, if he was given the proper platform to say it without all the extra stuff, he would say, I need you. And he would also say that in a way of, I want to be connected to you. And in order for me to do that, I need for you to provide a space within your world, within your life that allows for me to operate in a role that will benefit you, but also benefit me. And so I think some men who get into that space of saying they don't want a woman with a career, when you think about how a man communicates, men hear words through information. Women hear words through emotion. And so a man can say something and he can be completely impersonal about it. He can say it and it not mean what we may think it to mean because how we process the words, right? And so when a man says something as simple as, I don't want a woman to have a career, he's may also be telling us something else. I don't want a woman with a career because the women that I've been around that had careers didn't leave me with the space to play a role in her life. And then he might have felt inadequacy from that. Granted, I have no idea who this man is and I have no idea how he actually feels. We would have to actually ask him directly and really, find questions to get the answers that we're looking for. But I believe that what a lot of men want to say and maybe trying to say, but say in a way that doesn't come across as being understood because we have that conflict of communication, is that they genuinely want to be connected to us. They genuinely want to feel needed by us because a man actually, his self-esteem is built into a woman needing him. You know what I'm saying? And so when you put it in that perspective, if you don't show a man that you need him, he has no idea for what is his purpose with you. And that will actually make him feel lesser than. And so
why is he complaining now? So I brought that up to say, you're saying that you want a woman without that doesn't have a career, but then there are good women that have careers, that you're kind of, I feel like, was overlooked, and now you're with this woman who has no career. You're complaining that she's always home, not doing nothing with herself. So now you are upset about the situation when you could have got the good girl that had the career, but you settled for something less.